What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Strive. It's Giselle and myself here today, and we just got back from a trip to Melbourne, which is always inspiring for us. We love going down to Melbourne, and a few of our manufacturers are there for various brands and warehousing and also clients for our agency Hype. So lots of exciting things always to do down in Melbourne, and we just seem to come back so inspired all the time. And when we decided to do this podcast today, you wanted to sort of maybe theme the topic as being about brand evolution.
Yeah, I think we're also lucky enough to go to a Chemist Warehouse supplier day where we got to see such a big beast and how they continue to grow and grow and grow. But you can tell from what they do as a Chemist Warehouse brand that they're always evolving. Like almost yearly, it seems like they're doing something new. But then within our own brands, we started having discussions whilst we were there and on the way there, and we came up with some really key aspects of where we thought some of our brands should evolve to. And it made me think that it was a topic that really could add a lot of value. I think it's something that we've got right at times, something we've got wrong at times, and we're starting to get to be able to work with some really, really cool brands that you can see what they've done, and they've timed it well. They've followed a plan. They've realized their plan has hit a certain time mark, and that's the time for evolution. So I think it's also referable to life as well. Like as people, as humans, we also evolve at different times, and that's the only way to move to the next stage. So it seemed just right timing, and we haven't done one together for 5 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah, something maybe more.
Had a guest each time, so it seemed like a good one for us to get back into.
100%. I think I put a message out on Instagram as well, and I said, hey, Sel and I are going to do a podcast about brand evolution, and do you have any questions? And surprisingly, we actually got some amazing
really
questions.
Good ones. Really good ones.
Some shit ones too from Tommy.
They were my favourite ones. My freezer is not fixed yet, Tommy. I'm looking at you down the barrel. It's not fixed yet.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 250 burpees on the weekend, so I'll just say 250 because it sounds about right.
There you go, Tommy. Just referencing that, Sel and some of the Sprout team went to an event called Burpees for Babies and raised funds for Baby Give Back, which is an amazing charity initiative run by a friend of ours and a partner of Sprout Organics. So good on you, Sel.
Yeah, sore, but great day. Sunday morning doing burpees till you felt like passing out was a lot of fun. And yeah, like you said, it's a good cause. Meeks works, trains out of combat. Heads that up, and then Carly from Baby Give Back always does a great job with her initiative that started from a garage in 2016, I believe, to now feeding and clothing over 10 to 20,000 babies in
amazing.
that period of time. So yeah, it was great.
The team made me feel bad that I slept through.
Oh man, it'd been a rough time for you. It'd been a solid week. I didn't expect you to come. I think the team did though. I was like, oh, you obviously don't know.
I did plan to come.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't go there.
Nah.
The thing about Melbourne for us guys is like, it just seems to be one of those destinations where there's just so much thought in everything that people does. You can walk into so many cafes around the city and just be inspired. And we walked into one 7 Seeds cafe, and we were talking so much about how to create impact for within our own brands. And at the moment we sat down, we saw in front of us an impact report that 7 Seeds had produced, and they produce every year, and it talks about the impact that they have within the communities that they roast their coffees in around the world, and the impact they have on the environment and all of these sorts of things, which was just so sort of it was just like so on point for what we were talking about and thinking about at this time, and for our own brands and also other brands that we're working for. And I think that is really what does make the difference these days, having that impact. And something that we always talk about when we talk about brand is that brands that have more impact are more influential, and the brands that are more culturally embedded are more influential. And I think that that is what brand is all about. And I think that that is something that's missed a lot of the time when people are creating brands for the first time.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I noticed when talking to people and asking them about what we were about to chat to was there was a big, I felt, misunderstanding of what a business or a company is compared to a brand. And it was very easy for someone to refer to any company believing it was a brand, which I don't agree with.
Yep.
In the thought process that I could register an ABN tomorrow, call it Birdie Enterprises, and that's a company.
Mm-hmm.
And it has no brand, it has no substance, it has no logo, it has no feel, it has no impact, as you refer to. But it's a company, and it can make a lot of money. It could make, depending what you're doing, it could make millions.
Mm-hmm.
No one would ever know what the brand meant, what it stood for. And so I think when people understand what a brand is, that it has impact, it has cultural relevance, it has a standpoint, it has a mission, it has a value, it has ethics, it has all these things that are beyond just making money or beyond just being surface level stuff. That's where I know you bring all that aspect to brand, because that's what you deliver to all clients, and why we do brand workshops and why we do all these things that make people understand their why, their purpose, their mission. And then if you can follow those three things as before, that's what develops a brand. And you may actually make no money out of it, but you still can have a brand and you can still deliver worldwide impact if you're able to harness what you've started from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the way I think about a business is literally, and the way we were taught when you were going through your law degree and things like that, is it's literally, think of it like it's its own person. Like it is a person, you know, and it's a living organism. And, you know, what is the soul of that organism? And to me, that is the brand, and how are you perceived to your audience, and who is your audience, and what do you stand for, and, you know, what is the energy that you emit to the audience around you? And I think it's just like, it's like identity. It's like our own human identity. It's like a lot of us don't even know who we are. And so it's hard to build brand correct from the start for a lot of people. And for a lot of people, they don't create brand from the start. They just go, hey, I really like fashion. I really like Culture Kings, and I want to start a fashion brand because I think that that's what makes me happy and that's what I'm into. So they create a cool logo that doesn't necessarily mean anything. They start creating the product, and then they start putting that product out to a market that they don't even know if that market is going to resonate with them, or they don't even consider who the market is. And I think that that's like the natural evolution of most businesses that start out from the first time. They kind of just like create a product or a service and create a cool logo and put it out there. But then over time, if they're doing a lot of reflecting, and they're doing a lot of personal development themselves, as in the business owner I'm talking about, and they're also reflecting on the impact of the business and the market that's being attracted to that business and all these things, you start identifying what your identity is. Yeah. It's kind of like when you're born, you're a blob. And then it's like over the years, as you grow into an adult, you start sort of working out what you like, what you don't like, you know, what people are saying about you to your face and behind your back, what impact you're having on society, what you stand for, what you dress like, who you resonate with, who your friends are, who your community is, and all of those things build your identity.
Yeah. It's like one of those things where I remember being younger, and I think everyone remembers when they're in high school or the likes of that, how you have such a massive circle of friends. Like it's huge. Like you if you were to have a party and you were to invite people, there could be hundreds that would attend. And then over time, you grow, environments shift, you get new culture introduced to you, you find out what actually really resonates with you. And then all of a sudden, everyone refers to this like your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's just the right people that you're speaking to that you enjoy having around you, and they enjoy vice versa. And when people say like they set their brand and then that's it would be like saying I am a person that went to school and I've kept all the exact same people around me and I like doing all the same activities and I haven't evolved as a person at all. It'd be the exact same type of thing where all those evolutions take place sometimes within a 3 to 5. Sometimes people shift even earlier. But generally speaking, I know one of the questions was, how often should your brand evolve? And it's like one of those things where it's like, how long's a piece of string? But at the same time, if you were to look at it and go, as a human, as a human, think about the major milestones of what we go through as humans. So we go through high school, tends to be a 4-year period. University tends to be a 3 to 5 year period, depending on your degree. Becoming established in whatever your craft is, a trade, tends to be a 3 to 5 year thing. Going from one level of business to another, they often refer to small business. If you can get between the first 3 to 5 years, you'll be able to succeed further. So it's definitely something I've noticed within our life cycle of businesses, that where you start and when you look back, and if it's a business plan, you've usually set it around 3-year to 5-year milestones, that you look back at it and go, were we on track? What did we change? Do our values still resonate with us? Some of our brands have been like spot on with it resonating and being right. Others, and we can talk about some of them, we've gone almost complete 180s from where we started. Not from it being a bad thing, as the environment shifted, who we are as people shifted, what impact we wanted to have has also changed. And that's all changed due to the environment we live in, be it the political environment, the environmental stance, the people we have that have come into our community impacted us, that in turn has made us want to impact them in the relevant way. So I think it's like one of those things that is a constant ecosystem that's always evolving, that if you don't evolve, well, you'll get left behind.
Yeah, far out, man. That's actually a really cool way of looking at it, because the way I think about a business is it's just the person that is behind it.
Yep.
Like, that is what it is. And so, like, as the person behind the business evolves, the business will evolve. And that's why it's so important for the success of a business and the progression of a business to have that leader and that person who basically started the brand to be involved in that way, because that is what the brand is. Yeah. And then once the brand is established and it's there, all of the elements that make up that brand and that business are all established over time, then you can start to scale out elements of that brand to other team members to manage and things like that. But realistically, it is the person behind the brand that is responsible for how the brand should talk and feel and all those sorts of things. And so I think you're right as far as saying, those time periods represent, how a brand should evolve. I think in a tactical perspective is for those who, are a little bit more experienced in understanding that a brand needs to have certain values, it needs to have a mission and a vision, and they set up their business, with all of these things in mind. I think that along the way, you should be referring back to those values and those sort of business structures so often that when you feel as though they don't align with your community anymore, it's time to reflect and it's time to evolve them as well from a tactical perspective.
Yeah, I think if we were to use a brand that a lot of people know we have as Combat, it probably is the one that is easiest for us to reflect on and give like an example of where we started and how we've evolved within a 3 to 5 year period. But it started exactly basically 4 years on the dot, so we sit right in that middle cycle. And we started it with in mind that it really started from me and Miles training together, pushing really, really hard on outside of the mats and then also on the mats, and training at 5 a.m, then working till 7 p.m, then coming back and training at 7:30 p.m, and wanting the people around us to be able to have something that allowed them to go as hard as what we all wanted to go. And so that was just like a case of going, oh, well, if we do this and we have these products, we'll be able to perform better on the mats, and then that will lead to better performance outcomes on the mats. And then the subsequent part of that will be we'll perform better in life and so forth. That was where it started. But then now that we've like started reflecting more and more and more, and then we built Combat Training Center and more people started coming into our ecosystem, and the people that we resonated with the most were not the world champions of the world, or not necessarily people that were just like absolute killers or anything. It was the people that were able to enter into a place like that for the very first time when they never otherwise would have stepped foot in there, but they said the environment was welcoming. They felt like this was the thing that could allow them to become a better version of themselves. This was the thing that could allow them to evolve and take on adversity in the future. This was the thing that could really give them something they felt was missing to be able to go out into everyday life and feel that much stronger, that much confident, that much more brave. And then the moment we started seeing that, we were like, that's what this feels like. That's the thing that lights up everything. And it could be a mum doing jiu-jitsu for the first time. It could be someone that has come back from injury. It could be someone that had mental health issues, that had used the nutrition and the gym to find themselves again. And then all of a sudden, we look back now at what we had written as our mission, values, and the likes of that, and went, it's time for the brand to evolve, because we've now evolved in seeing what really sparks someone within the gym, and what makes us also feel like we're contributing in a positive way, and how we can have that positive impact.
That's what I think one of the biggest things is as well, though, man, is like over the last 4 years, we have understood ourselves better. And what we thought the brand should have been wasn't necessarily a reflection on our own personal values and the way that we sort of saw that brand benefiting our community. Whereas like that's become more clear to us now. And, you know, it's funny, like we help brands discover their brand purpose every day. And we've worked with some incredibly influential brands around the world. But when you start your own brand, you kind of don't go through the same process. It's kind of true. Like, it's so silly. It's like, you know, when people say accountants don't look after their own finance and lawyers don't look after their own sort of legal affairs. It's like, we kind of did the same thing where it was like, we just organically started Combat. We thought it was a good idea. We didn't necessarily stick to a particular plan. We did write missions and visions and values and all those sorts of things, but they didn't necessarily align to our personal values and our personal belief system. We very much sort of like connected the brand to an elite athlete, and you have been an elite athlete, and I probably work out a lot more than the average person, but that's not why we started this, you know, and that's not what the values that we created for the brand were, or what has evolved to be. So you'll see a change in that brand. And for a lot of you who know Sel and I, you'll see the brand relate to, you know, our values a lot more. And I think it'll just make more sense. But I think that's something as well. It's like starting is the most important thing, you know, and then you will work out over time sort of like who you are and who you want to become.
I think the thing within all of that, as you mentioned, is being authentic to yourself is probably the most important thing that you're trying to extract from yourself into the brand. I've never started something that I didn't believe in, so I couldn't speak to starting a brand or product that was just on trend.
A drop shipping company from China.
Just because I thought I could make a lot of money from it. I can't speak to it because I've never done it, and I never would do it because it just doesn't resonate or vibe with me. But I can speak to wanting to start something because you believe in it so much that you want to deliver that on scale to as many people as possible, because you think, or you know in your heart, that it can improve their lives of them, their families, their friends, thousands of other people. So for that aspect, I think the only way you can possibly do that is by being, you have to know who you are first and foremost, because if you don't, you can't authentically deliver a message on scale to that many other people and get them to believe in what you're delivering. Because imagine there's 1 billion products out there, and then in your category there may be 200 million products, and then in that category there is another 100 million that are similar to you. What is going to separate yours to theirs? It's people are going to resonate with your authenticness within within your brand. And so if you don't have that authenticity, I think you're doomed to begin with. I wouldn't even recommend trying it if you didn't have your 100. And that authenticness to some people may be absolutely brilliant. To other people, they may absolutely hate it. And to be honest, we were also talking about this. There's a good chance if you are just in between and people don't either really love you or hate you, you're probably not...
You'll get lost.
You'll probably get lost and just be in the midst of not being quite there or not... And you'll just be going, this is kind of ticking along, but I'm not getting where I want it to be. And why isn't this like really resonating? Because we're all humans in the aspect of some people like things that are really sweet. Some people like them really salty. Mm-hmm. You've got to find where you sit within there and then go and sit in that position and go as hard as you can.
And that really, that really speaks to you needing to feel comfortable with who you are and, accepting the fact that you are going to be judged and your brand is going to be judged, and some people are going to like it and some people are not going to like it. And that strength and bravery comes within knowing who you are or who your brand is, and then accepting yourself and accepting that is who your brand is. And then when all of the, I guess, quote unquote, hate starts coming towards you, you have a shield. You have an internal shield that allows you to deflect it because you know who you are and you know what you represent, and you know that some people are going to resonate with it and some are not. But if you are a brand that's going to try and please everyone, you're probably not going to get anywhere.
Oh, for sure. And more than anything, you'll also be extremely unhappy. Like beyond anything else, even when you think of yourself personally, the moments that you're sitting there trying to please everyone are the moments you're probably hating life. I remember being a kid, mid-teens, and I was stuck in that position of going like, oh, I want this person to like me, or I want to deliver that outcome for this person. I don't want to let this person down. And then all of a sudden you realize like I've lost who I am. Like I can't work out what I want to do because I'm too busy trying to please everyone. The brand is no different. If you're sitting there just going... And I only use food because that's what I know better than other businesses. But if I sit there going, well, I'm plant-based as a person, but I know plant-based is only 15 to 17% of the market, but I also want to get all the other part of the market, the 83% that is omnivores. So they'll have dairy, they'll have meats, they'll have all these different products because they're there. I don't want to miss out on any of them. Well, then I'm not being authentic to myself. I'm just trying to please 100% of the market, and I'll probably end up pleasing nobody. And I know for sure I'll feel shit about the product I'm delivering because I don't believe in it.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where without looking too far into the future, and if you're going to start something, what do you really, really believe in? Beyond anything else, what do you believe in more than anything? And if you're going to commercialize that into a product, into a service, can you do that day in, day out with true hand on heart, say, this is what I believe in? And if you can do that, I think you've got the best foundation you can possibly ask for, because you won't have to lie to yourself. You're not going to have to lie to customers. You'll definitely be able to deliver your message with purpose. A lot of people can't do that because they're selling something, in all honesty, they don't believe in.
Yeah. I know that we want to answer all of the questions that came to us when we asked the question on Instagram. They're very tactical questions, and I do want to do a podcast where we go into depth, into tactical examples of how to answer these questions. But I think it's important for us to have this discussion today and maybe talk more conceptually. And I think we're hitting a lot of points that I hope people are taking some notes on and getting some understanding of. But it's like the importance of brand to me is this. Here's a personal example that I give all the time is I love the brand Beats by Dre. I wear their headphones. And the reason why I love them is because I love the story of Dre and Jimmy Irvine. I love how they built the brand. I resonate with it so much. And I love the content that they put out. I love everything about that brand. So when I go into JB Hi-Fi and I see my friend who works at JB Hi-Fi and I'm like, I want those Beats headphones. And he goes to me, nah, man, they're shit. You should get these ones. These are way better and they're cheaper price. And my answer is, nah, man, it's all good. I want those.
Yeah.
That is the power of brand. It is, brand supersedes all of the other elements that come with a business and a product and all those sorts of things. And that is the real true power of a brand, is that there is so many products out there, there's so many services, but the thing that stands out and puts you apart from all the rest is your brand. And I think that if you can get that right, like, that is the most powerful thing.
It definitely is. I think it's like one of those things. I know one of the questions within there was, how do you scale the brand? And it's something that I can put my hand up and say, I don't actually have all the answers yet. I know how to scale products because that's machinery, and that's tooling up, and that you can do that. That doesn't mean you're necessarily scaling your brand, because something that we can talk to is when you start moving faster and faster and getting bigger and bigger and trying to do more things at a faster, rapid rate, your message that you know that usually would be delivered by you and you know exactly what you want to say starts to be delivered by someone else, be it a manager, a staff member, a contractor, whoever it may be. And if you haven't got them like down that chain of line to be able to deliver the same brand message that you want to deliver, it gets watered down. And then it gets delivered to someone else, and then it gets watered down again. And before you know it, you think, like, at the wherever you're sitting in the run, you're like, but I want my brand to stand for this. But by the time the whole waterfall or Chinese whispers, whatever you want to call it, gets down to the end consumer, they may not be hearing it the same way and as powerful as you want it to be. And I really, the Beats by Dre example that you gave there is perfect. Certain people have like the opportunity and platform through their own personal brand to be able to tell their story personally and then connect it to their brand and then be able to deliver that at a faster rate. Like those people have such a huge advantage that if you are one of those people, really take use of it, because you're able to speak to people much quicker via yourself than trying to speak to people via multiple mediums that are changing your messaging in between. With that then said, if you don't have that, the importance of building a culture, resources within your own team and having everyone on the same page is so important. It becomes everything. I can speak to recently with even Sprout, where we have spent days only talking about alignment and our mission and our vision and finding out what everyone's personal mission and vision was, so we could all align and say, we all in some way stand for the exact same thing and we all want to change the world and have a positive impact globally. Now that we all understand that and all believe in that, we can move forward together. Even though we'd been going 18 months by this stage, we still needed to come back to that. And we actually are now coming back to that every 3 months, because if we really want to be global, we need everyone to understand exactly what we stand for and how we're going to deliver that message.
And I think it's so important to document those things. And that's how we are able to scale our brand and the communication of that brand. And that's where things like, you know, our brand vision guidelines and identity guidelines and, you know, all those sorts of things, where they play use. And so it's like, it's not just pretty pictures and, you know, how to use your logo on certain marketing assets. It's really sort of expressing what the brand is striving to achieve, what it means, like what the values of the brand are, like how the brand speaks to its customers, like all of these sorts of things. And it's so important that when you bring on resources, human resources, that they fully immerse themselves in those brand guidelines and become familiar with who that brand is, and that allows them to emulate the brand in whatever they're doing. So that's how we scale. And, you know, I think this is where we start to, you know, get into tactics, and we start working out how to materialize our impact and put metrics towards our impact and all these things. And this is something that we're doing for Sprout now, and this is how we scale our brand to be global, and how we continue our impact. It's like putting it into different vehicles that have metric results that we can monitor and push, and they're kind of like levers and things that allow us to grow. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and I don't expect everyone to sort of be there when they're starting a brand for the first time, but
Yeah, man. And even when you are like, I think everyone can speak to, even when the people at the top, people we admire and try to chat to, even when they've made it there, they often have hiccups. Even speak to that where we went to with the Seven Seeds with the coffee, which is in Carlton, and like great business, great brand. That, like they've made a cafe into a brand, and now they've made their roasting into a brand. There were like managers and people that were running around there that really cared, and they were delivering what their brand message was. The flip to that was a girl came over to Miles, and Miles was like, "Could I have the market juice? What's in it?" And she goes, "I don't care." She actually verbally said, "I don't care. I'm here for one day, and I don't know what it is. They've just made that to sound pretty. I don't even think you should get it." And I was like, "All right, cool. You don't care." So moved on from that. But you can see that you can't always get every mechanism right. But even with that said, we left that place going, that joint as a whole had done so well with their brand communication that even if a person came in and was trying to almost like attack it, the brand still stood out there, that you walked away with the sustainability document. You knew what their impact was by the time you left there. You knew they had a good culture of the things that they were doing there. You knew that whatever the actual aspect of what was trying to be delivered, even if the food was good, but even if the food wasn't good, I still would have left there going, they're doing the right things as a brand. And that's where I feel it's almost important that strong brands get away with mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes. Whereas if you don't have a good brand, those mistakes could kill you. Because people won't forgive. Like they'll forgive a brand that's doing all the right things and doing things and making a positive impact and helping them change and helping political matters or environmental matters. But if you don't have any level of we're going to do better for the future good, and you make a mistake, which we all will, it'll crush you. Like the people will just go, well, they didn't stand for anything anyway, so now they've made this mistake, we'll just bury them. And they won't come back.
It's really interesting. It just sort of like paints a picture of like why people start businesses. And like you and I are very, very community driven, where what fulfills us and what we feel like puts us on this earth is having the ability to create businesses that have an impact on our local and also now global communities. And that's something that's always prided us. But so, you know, we're providers, whereas there are businesses out there that just start to become leeches. Like they're literally just takers. They try and create a vehicle to siphon as much money out of their community as humanly possible for the least amount of value as possible. And they don't necessarily have a brand per se, or some might do as well, but typically maybe not. So I think when we're answering these questions and having these discussions, like that's how Sel and I are always framing our answers, is like we can only speak as to like what our experience has been and like what our values are. And so when we're talking about brand evolution, and something that Sel and I were talking about off camera was the fact that everything we have done in terms of business development has been for the long term. Like that we haven't started, yes, we have started up and sold businesses, but for every business we have built with a long-term future. And that doesn't mean we never want to exit. It doesn't mean that we're only trying to create legacy businesses that we're passing on to our kids and all those sorts of things. It just means that we understand, or in our minds and in our experience, brands that have a longer term sort of like pathway will become more successful over time. And we don't necessarily believe in those quick win type business models because it doesn't resonate with our values as people. By providing value to our community. And
I also think that post exit, post sale, post those types of things, as you said, we can only speak to our own experience. And I'll speak to like a personal experience with like Biscuit and Biscuit Cafe. It was just simply a cafe on the Gold Coast. I wanted to be started, but it became a thing. It became its own brand purposefully. And I always wanted it to be able to, it can stay there and I could leave it and someone else could take it on and still be providing the health hub of Central Gold Coast from a food perspective. It doesn't have to be me. I go there maybe once every 3 months now. I'm still friends with the owners. They do a great job. Personally, I think they do a better job than I did. From running the cafe day to day, my goal was to create a brand that could continue on well after that time period. And I just find trends are never remembered well. And something that I always do have in the back of my mind is that no different to you as a human being, when you finish, and we're all going to leave this earth at some stage, how do you want to be remembered? You don't want to be remembered as that person that created some really quick fad that didn't actually help people, be it health, environmentally, politically, consumer, whatever you want to do. You don't want to be remembered as that. Me personally, maybe some people don't care.
Yeah.
But to me, that would be like the worst possible thing I could do. Like coming onto the planet, using its resources, leaving something shit that didn't have a positive impact, but gave me some money, and then I disappear. Like that to me is just not what I personally would ever want to be involved with. And I think 99% of people truly deep down don't want to be involved in that either. As humans, we're not designed for that.
Yep.
We're designed to work and build to pass down to future generation. That's why people have kids.
Yep.
That's why there's families. That's why there's communities. That's why we have tribes. It's just all going back to an ancestral process. So if we are built like that, why not try and develop businesses like that? Mm-hmm. Why not try and create products like that that allow legacy, allow sustainability, allow future development and growth? And you may not have it right. Like, no different. Like, Steve Jobs isn't alive now. The Apple iPhone evolves, or Apple in general, evolves year on year without fail. And it gets better, and it gets better, and it gets better. I would rather just be involved in setting something up from the foundation and watching it get better. And I know I'm not the person that's going to be the one that changes it each time, but I'm hoping that together we get the people involved and the resources to make all our things get better and better. And that evolution is product, but it's also the brand. And so the brand has to speak to the evolution of the products. And I feel there's very few products. There are some. Coke are probably the exception. Somehow they've managed to do a product that I have no idea how long it's been going for, but it doesn't seem to have changed. Their messaging has changed. Their brand has evolved, but their product has remained the same.
Their brand has evolved to become more culturally relevant each time, but it's still the same feeling. It's still the same brand per se. It's still the same values and all those sorts of things.
So they've managed to do that, and that's like speaks to something that I personally, as a things we've created, know right now we can't do, because our products lay in the space of innovation. And with innovation, it changes so quickly, particularly food innovation, that if the product evolves, then the brand has to evolve. Because if not, you're speaking to something, it'd be like Apple speaking to the iPhone 3. And
what you're saying is the brand needs to sit above it. Yes, it's connected to the products that you develop, but it sits above the products.
It sits above the products. Exactly.
Your decision to make certain products.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you we're talking about one of our brands, and it's to be the leader in kids nutrition, hypothetically, globally, and that's being a leader in kids nutrition involves your product being the leader, then your messaging as a brand has to sit as a leader from the start. It can't work in reverse. You can't deliver all these great new products that are awesome, but your brand is talking back in the early 2019 or whenever the inception of it was, because then you haven't evolved. And then the mismatch will cause consumer confusion, and rightfully so, because they're like, this product is great, but I don't understand what the brand is trying to tell me about the product or anything else coming from it. So for us, we probably are in the space where we have to evolve our brand quicker maybe than other businesses have to. Maybe you're in a business that delivers a service. It could be plumbing or building or something like that, and your values and your mission set don't have to evolve as quickly because the industry hasn't changed that much. It will change. Every industry changes, but maybe it means you don't have to evolve as quickly. So I definitely think what industry your service or business lays in also dictates a bit of how quickly your evolution needs to take place.
Yeah, for sure. That's really interesting. And it's kind of like you see brands out there. I say brands. We use that term just like, we just use it so interchangeably. It's like we just call it a brand. Let's just say businesses out there. Let's just say the sports nutrition industry, for example, is a good example. Like the moment a new trend comes out, every single sports nutrition business will jump on that product because they want a piece of that action. They want a piece of that market that will buy into that new product. But none of these businesses have ever considered, does this new product that I'm jumping onto relate to my brand and what I stand for and the values of my business and all of these sorts of things? They just go, I'm a sports nutrition company. That's a sports nutrition product. It's hot right now. It's a new trend. We need to do that. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to miss out on this opportunity. And it's kind of, it's a road to like nothing, basically, because it's like, sure, if that product relates to, your greater brand purpose and your vision and aligns with all your values and your market and all those sorts of things, sure, that's a great opportunity. If you haven't even considered that when you're starting new products, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. It's because obviously sports nutrition is a place we've probably got the most industry experience. If anyone's like thinking about starting a sports nutrition business, and I always say, if you're going to start anything, look at who the very best is, see what they've done, and then see why it's worked. And sports nutrition, the very best, and this is not me speaking from a personal aspect because I don't even use their products, but Optimum Nutrition has stood the test of time as being the best from a revenue standpoint, sales standpoint, whatever you want to call it. Like they've stood the test of time. When you look at their product range and the things they've always underpinned their products with, the Whey Gold standard, there is their like core product that hasn't changed. They've added flavors, they've done all these different types of things. But if anyone wants to think about Optimum and think about all the products that hit the sports nutrition category, you never see them like hopping on some crazy trend. You never saw them go on that like pre-workout trend when Jacked was trending and all those products. They were making like Jack 3D and stuff was making millions daily. And obviously Optimum had the power to jump on that. They could easily have jumped in that. It's illegal now, but at the time, that legal window of basically blowing your head off with crazy stims of dimethylalanine, and it would have blown up their revenue and profit, and then it would have disappeared, and they would go back to doing what they did. Most businesses or brands did do that during that period of time. Why did Optimum not do it? Clearly, they have some type of mission, core values, and set of we only do what we do well and right. And they're still going.
And I guarantee you that served them like so well over time compared to those quick wins. It has compounded the amount of financial success that they have had over time versus the quick wins that these other businesses have. And the thing is that people go, yeah, well, fuck. Like, I would just do the Jacked 3D thing and make a few mil and then bail out of there. But it's just like, man, like, first of all, you're not going to, because you need to be so knowledgeable within an industry first to see an opportunity like that come up. You need to have the resources to be able to, activate, a business that's can just like jump onto a trend and all those sorts of things. There's so many variables, but it's like, then what? It's just like the way that I see business is like, you want to have that long-lasting impact. You want to be something that stands for something, and you want to be a brand like Optimum that lasts the test of time, and like actually provides like good value to their community. I don't agree with the formulation of their products. I think they're shit, but that doesn't matter. Like,
and the other thing is, like, when you're talking about the brand and the evolution, what does success look like to you? Like, for some people, and this is why someone would do it, and that's why we got the question about when should you jump on a trend and when should you not, is if success looks like to you, I want $10 million in my bank account and I want it done in 1 year or something like that, which in a true business aspect is near impossible. It is possible if you jumped on a trend and jumped out. And if that was your only measure of success, then yeah, it probably makes sense for you to jump on that trend, because that's what you're defining success as. If you are defining success as longevity of business, being sustainable, be it being able to live well after your time on earth, which is what I define success as, that I want, be it that Combat logo or that Sprout logo or the Biscuit logo, whatever it is, well after our time, to be able to sit there and someone will know that brand stands for this. And they don't even need to like read anything. They don't even need to see anything. They just know they see that logo and they feel X. That's, to me, like real success as a brand. And I don't know what the financial figure is around that. For me personally, it may mean I may be broke. It may mean that we've made money. I'm hoping it means we made money, because that means it would mean that it serves its purpose to also be able to feed our families within that aspect. But if you have a different definition of success, all power to you. It's not, I've never said anyone is right or wrong for how they view or believe things. It's just that for me, if you don't have that thought process of wanting to leave the earth in a better place, and those things that you're leaving the earth with are able to help drive innovation and future thoughts and health and impact, then to me it's so fickle that I just wouldn't really probably buy into your brand anyway. And the same way you probably wouldn't buy into my brand, because you'd be just like, I just want my quick win. And the products or services that we deliver wouldn't be quick wins. Yeah. So I feel that there's going to be, and I think it's happening more and more at a faster rate due to social media and this quick win world we live in, that someone sees person launch brand X and they got some real quick wins because they had a social following and it was trendy and the video went viral and then they got all this attention really quickly. That brand, product, whatever, won't be there in 2 years' time. That person may make some money, but it won't be there. You'll forget about them. And some people are really drawn to that, where I'm the opposite. I go away from that. I actually really, it doesn't gel with me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the way the world is evolving and there's so much noise out there and there's so many people trying to get quick wins because of social media and all those sorts of things, I think that we as humans are now resonating and trying to connect way more to brands that have impact and purpose and that align with our values. And I think that we are also trying so hard to understand ourselves better, where people are so much more tuned into doing personal development and mindfulness, and even just the question, like, who am I and like, what is my identity? How often that is coming up now, more so than in the past. It just shows that we are really trying to understand that. And that is only going to lead to people needing and wanting to connect with brands that align with themselves more. So I think that that's inevitable. When we're talking about, you're talking about building a legacy brand and whether it's going to be successful or not, that's going to be underpinned by the structural elements of the business that are underneath that brand. And if you do a decent job at that, your brand can be successful over time, I think. And speaking about your example of Biscuit and things, that is going to happen. They are going to be successful over time because, you are building the right structural elements underneath that brand to allow it to move. It's a vehicle. It's a living vehicle that you are giving power to that is moving forward over time. And this kind of like then goes into, you're starting to talk about fame and notoriety and the ability that fame has to like further amplify your business product or maybe brand, if that's what you've built. And then a lot of questions that people were asking us was about the value of personal branding and, what our thoughts are on personal branding. What's your thoughts? You've started to talk about fame and building a following and the impact that can have on amplifying your brand and getting it out to an audience. Like, what's your thoughts about personal branding?
Yeah, I think like there's two things that I've really heard that resonated with me around personal branding and everything around that space. And a good reference for one was that your personal brand is basically what someone says about you when you're not in the room. And the easiest way is people will always talk shit like about you when you're not there. Or are they saying, wow, I felt good like when that person was around, or we had a really good conversation, or he provided me good positive energy, or are they saying the opposite? And that's often like what your personal brand is. Like whether you like it or not, you may like be hurt when you hear people are talking smack about you or whatever it may be. That's what they're saying when you're not there. So that's what your brand has left within there. And so I think around your personal brand, it's easy to like, no doubt, do the quick win things that we've talked about and bullshit to people and lie and steal and do all these things that will get you there quickly, but it will unravel. It will always unravel. Like it's one of those things that it's like a business. If you do multiple negative, bad things, you may get some wins, but it will come undone. I believe in that. And then the other thing that I heard, I think it may have been The Rock that even said it, who possibly has, as a personal brand, maybe one of the biggest personal brands globally. I mean, he's called The Rock. But he gets referred to as a personal brand before he gets referred to as his own name. So you look at that, and someone asked him about that, and he said something really powerful. I'm not like a crazy Rock fan. I like him and everything, but he said something that made me really think, and he said along the lines of, it's important. What did he say? It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. And what he was basically referring to is that, yes, due to his success and fame and the likes of that type of stuff, people view him as important. So he'll walk into a room and he'll get a lot of attention, a lot of things and a lot of different things. But what's more important is what he leaves the room making people feel, that he's nice, he's respectful, he does all these different things. And I feel if you've gone through the effort of doing that and providing value back to people and making them feel better about themselves than when they first met you, and then you've gone after their, you're in turn building personal brand. And you may not even realize it. Like it's not a thing that you're actively sitting there thinking, I need to build my personal brand with these people, but you're doing it unknowingly by doing the right things, being nice to them, being respectful, helping them when you've got to a position of power or anything like that. And that ability to add value back to their life, I think, is going to become so much more important when it's just getting to this point where there's just so much shit that is out there and people are just feeding this garbage train that if you're giving some authenticity, making them feel better about themselves, no doubt your personal brand is going to grow to a better position. And then that personal brand will give you leverage to speak to your business brand, which will in turn obviously possibly flourish because of all the things you've done in the background.
It's really interesting. What you're kind of, talking about is that everyone has quote unquote a personal brand. The term personal brand is just a title that we use to encapsulate how you make me feel.
Yeah.
If I thought about you, what would you be wearing? If you left the room, how would I be feeling? All these types of things. And it's just like the more attention that you have on yourself, whether it's followers on social media, whether it's business network, whatever it might be, the more that you can leverage quote unquote your personal brand to do commerce, to get your message out there, to make an impact, whatever it might be. So it's kind of like, even the other day, it was so interesting. I was talking to one of the guys at the gym, Dads, about wanting to change my car. And he was like, oh, but that car suits you. Yeah. Even just that term.
True.
Like if he thought about me and what car I would have, he would think about the car that I have right now because that suits my quote unquote personal brand, which is so interesting, right? And so it's like when people ask like, how important is a personal brand? Well, it's like, first of all, we all kind of have a personal brand. It's who we are, right? And it's just like the more attention we get, it just means the more people are discovering like what our personal brand is, right? So I guess the question really is, does personal fame help you in business?
And I think it can. I can also think that the flip to that, it can actually cripple you, if no different to that important to be nice to be important type of situation, in the aspect that, if, put it this way, Kanye West, really good example of it right now, just because it's really topical. So if you have a personal brand like Kanye, it's a volatile brand. It's very polarizing. It's it's fire. Like it feels literally like people really love him or hate him. He's clearly a genius. And I don't think anyone ever argues the fact that produces great music, creates great fashion, on trend with anything that's happening, innovative, all those types of things. But then within your personal brand, you are racist in some way, bigotry in some way, not for equal rights in some way, whatever it may be, within that aspect. And that was found to be you within your personal brand, but you had like a massive spotlight on you that could completely hurt you in a massive way. There's also the aspect that you may have enough money and funds and different things to fight those types of things. But then again, it comes down to what's your aspect of success look like. And then say you left this earth, would you be remembered for the great music and creativity and genius that you left on the world? Or would you be remembered as the person that was doing all this wild shit that people by the end started looking at that as your lasting legacy, which would be shit. Wouldn't matter what you delivered. It could be the complete opposite of how you intended to leave the earth. And I'm just using Kai as an example. I reckon that aspect would hurt him way more, because I don't believe it's actually he's purposely doing these things in that aspect. But if he left the world with 30 Grammys, biggest shoe line of all time, biggest albums of all time, created most amount of innovative change, the most successful financial black person to date, could change in history, but he left the earth going, people were like, he was racist or he was a bigot.
I think we're yet to see this unfold.
You are.
I don't know what the answer is there.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is he just being authentic to himself? And obviously there's some mental health considerations and all sorts of things that make this a very complicated thing. But the one thing that I can agree on is the fact that, Kanye has a personal brand, and what he's done is built a container around his values, his belief systems, and all these things, which is Ye.
Yeah.
And when you look at Kanye, he has a certain style. He has he's created almost like a logo and a title for his brand, which is Ye. Yeah. And all these things around it. And I think that is sort of what we're talking about, where you can even develop and evolve your personal brand into becoming almost like your alter ego.
Yeah, you can.
And display it in a certain way and all that. You don't, like Gary V. It's like Gary Vaynerchuk made Gary V. Like that's his, it doesn't mean that he's not the same person.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would be the same person when he's at home with his family as he is when he's Gary V. And it's those people who become the most successful because they're authentic. And I think that that's why Kanye has, when I say successful, I mean have the most amount of attention.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you were saying, it depends what sort of message you're putting across as
sure.
to whether it becomes quote unquote successful or not, or translates into personal financial success.
Yeah.
But I think that, what we're talking about is if you want to build a business around your personal skills and experience, and you even want to create a container for that personal brand, and you want to amplify it and get a lot of attention, it's a great way to do commerce and sell your skills and help a community and get financial returns for that. Don't confuse that with the fact that the amount of followers you have dictates the value of your personal brand, because they're two separate things.
For sure.
I'll give you an example. We work with a lot of athletes and celebrity figures for different brands, and we will do collaborations with them. And for example, we just worked with someone that has 1 million followers. On the other end, we've done collaborations with UCell, and we have sold shirts for Cause, raising funds to create gyms in Africa and things like that. You have 2,000 followers on your Instagram. This is not what you're trying to achieve. You're not trying to build an Instagram following per se, but you have a personal brand, and you achieved more financial success for the cause that we were, running for that business than the person that had 1 million followers for.
Yeah.
So it's like we all have the ability to build a personal brand but the value of that personal brand is not dictated by the amount of followers you have.
Definitely not.
But it could be your business network. It could be the amount of friends that you have, or the amount of people that, really resonate with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important thing to sort of put out there.
It definitely is. The other thing, the easy way, and you taught me this, was the way I like to think of things now is just simply based on traffic. And it can be, say you build a website and you have 100 people come to your website a day, and you had a conversion rate of 50%. And that's because what you're delivering to your audience of 100 people, and that's all you're following, or all the people that came to your website, was they resonated with it more than anything. It was every fiber of them and you communicated to them, and they loved it and they believed in it. And so 50 people would purchase from you per day because you had a 50% conversion rate. Then flip that to, say, a person that had 100,000 followers, and their following was because they were nude, or they were selling some bullshit that was just like, oh, people want to see that because the human nature of things is, I want to see a freak show, or I want to see this, or it's sexy at the time, or it's porn, or it's whatever it is. And so they had 100,000 people, but then they started trying to sell something, and they were trying to sell astrophysics or something that wasn't within their lane, but they knew that other thing was actually now trending. And that traffic that they were getting and say it was 100,000 as well, they had 100,000 people still coming in there, but 0.0001% of people wanted to actually purchase what they were selling because they didn't believe in it. And so they only sold 10 things. Mm-hmm. Who's actually winning in that game, in that whole aspect? The person that's selling their soul, putting out anything they can to get followers and traction and media and fame and all that other type of stuff, or the person that was staying true to themselves, that had 100 people, that had a 50% conversion rate, but those 50 people believed everything they were delivering. And that's probably where I hope that our businesses can get to. I'd like to think that's what I hope other people want to achieve. But I know that on the flip to that, it's easy to see the person with the 100,000 that we're referring to and thinking, oh, that's the quick win, because I can do something real quick and get all these people, and maybe it's easier to do that than get the 0.00001%, compared to going, I'd rather build 100, 200, then 400, then 500, and so
that's
forth.
That's majorly compounding.
It's
and so
huge,
the value that you're going to receive for that model is going to far outweigh the other one. And people out there I know are going, oh, but Miles and Sell, like if you got 100,000 followers, like who cares if that didn't work? I can sell, the fact that I've got following for deals with brands and things like that. I'm like, but cool. But it's like, we just did a campaign with someone for 1 million followers. We're not going to do a deal with that person again. And it's like, it didn't have an impact. And it's like, sure, there's a lot of brands that someone like that can work with, but it's not compounding.
For sure.
Like,
and the other thing I will say to that, because we've been in that similar position, is now more than ever, the brand on the other side, the company, the business owner, whoever it is that's looking at those numbers, will dig and do due diligence into every aspect of those 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And I've made the mistake multiple times now where I'll just go, cool, that sounds great. Looks like you've got an audience of people. Show me this metric. Show me what you stand for. Show me your brand messaging. Show me people that have bought into that service, that tangible product, whatever it is that you're delivering, for me to actually believe that it isn't super superficial, that it actually has substance, that substance would relate to my brand as well, that would go further. Because it was easy to do that before. I'm telling you now, even the more numbers I see on people, the more skeptical I'm starting to get about it, because you can buy followers now. You can do all that type of stuff. It's easy to get someone to get some quick wins. You're good looking, you're halfway there to getting quite a lot of followers. If I'm a guy that's selling some product that may be XYZ, and then there's a female that's got something, and I looked at her following and it was all one sex, whatever it may be, but I was selling a product to another sex, why would I invest into that, hypothetically, as just an example, when that following isn't going to be looking at what I'm after? You don't just buy into numbers. You buy into the why, the purpose, the reason.
Yeah.
That's the only way things actually work. And it's getting harder in the market for sure to understand what that looks like, but now people are doing more research. You have to do more research into it all.
100%. And hey, look, like I said, we are going to do another podcast and get really tactical. Even if it's myself or if it's Sel going through it and literally answering the questions and going, okay, this is how we build a brand. This is how we run a brand lab session, and what you should consider and how deep you need to dive to get the answers that you want to start creating and documenting your brand vision documents and things like that. I want to go deeper into, whether you should start a personal brand, or whether, it's not for you. And all of these sorts of questions that we're getting, and like, when should a brand evolve, and all the things around that. But I think it was really important just to have this kind of discussion and just talk about some things and some concepts and things that are on our mind, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like Miles was saying, the plan was to break down more of the longer formats into shorter bits that people can not go, I need to listen to an hour about it. They can find a question that would be set straight based on the questions that we received in. That was just like, hey, I need to know about strategy A.
Yep.
And we can answer that, and it can be a 10-minute thing, and then you can take it away. You don't have to, and then that way it allows more opportunity to deliver more value. So keen to break that all down and get stuck into it further.
100%, man. So I hope you guys got some value out of that discussion. I'm interested in listening back to it as well, because obviously when we have these chats, it's super raw, just whatever's on our mind sort of comes out. So it's interesting listening back to it and seeing whether I agree with what we talked about or not, because it's not like we have been deeply thinking about these questions or anything. It's just kind of what comes from the top of mind. And hey, if we don't agree with some of the things we said, we'll come back on the podcast and
correct ourselves.
Yeah. It's like,
don't always get everything right. So honesty is always the best policy if we've made a mistake somewhere along there. But we're looking forward to delving deeper into it all.
Sick, guys. Well, I hope it gave you some inspiration to think a little bit deeper and think about your own why, and think about what your brand stands for, and starting to document some of those things if you haven't already, and go on that journey. And I guess that's what it's all about. So like we said, the brands that are more impactful have more influence, and if you have more influence, it's natural that you can achieve more financial success for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, or more success in the impact that you want to have on your community around you. So start thinking deeper, guys, and I hope that we're inspiring you to think deeper.
Thanks, team.